I will die on this world. I cannot tell where this conviction comes from. Whatever birthed it is a mystery to me, and yet the thought clings like a virus, blooming behind my eyes and taking deep root within my mind. It almost feels real enough to spread corruption to the rest of my body, like a true sickness. It will happen soon, within the coming nights of blood and fire. I will draw my last breath, and when my brothers return to the stars, my ashes will be scattered over the priceless earth of this accursed world. Armageddon. Even the name twists my blood until burning oil beats through my veins.
There are many worlds within the Imperium that are crucial to its survival. Some are bastions of humanity's glory. Others bear the forges of the Imperium's war efforts. Some birth the new generations of his angels, and others are all that stand between survival and annihilation. Yet some planets amongst the stars bear more significance than others, and some, on rare occasions, are of such import that they cannot fall under any circumstance. Planets such as the Imperial Hive World of Armageddon. Located 10,000 years from Holy Terra, the hive planet known as Armageddon would have one of the most storied pasts of any planet of the galaxy. The homeworld of the Orc Xenos, known during the Great Crusade as Ulanor, the planet would be characterized entirely by the ravages of war. As the Emperor of Mankind would wage war across the stars to reclaim the scattered colonies of humanity, Ulanor would prove so crucial as to herald its own crusade. The Ulanor Crusade would be launched against the planet of Ulanor Prime, the seat of power for the Orc Empire under the command of its overlord, Urlak Uruk. The Orcs had become so powerful during the Great Crusade's expanse that the Emperor would deem them too large a threat to be ignored. The largest greenskin empire ever recorded in humanity's history, the Emperor would lead the crusade himself, deploying 100,000 Astartes consisting of the legions of the Lunar Wolves, White Scars, and Ultramarines. By their side, 8 million guardsmen of the Imperial Army and 100 Titans would lay waste to the Orc Empire. Alongside the Primarch of the Lunar Wolves, Horus Lupercal, the Emperor would crush the Greenskins and scatter their forces. With the conclusion of the triumph of Ulanor, the Emperor would crown Horus Lupercal as War Master of the Imperium. Returning to Holy Terra and leaving the Great Crusade in the hands of the War Master, Ulanor would be the greatest victory recorded of the united forces of the Imperium. Though such unity would not last, with Horus Lupercal's descent as a thrall of the ruinous powers. Yet Ulanor would not go unmolested by the shamed and tattered forces of the Orc hordes. For they would wait, as the armies of humanity fought and massacred each other during the Great Civil War, known as the Horus Heresy. For soon, the Orcs would return to reclaim their homeworld. With Horus Lupercal and his traitorous brethren defeated, and a millennia passing of the treachery of the traitors to the throne, a new threat to the galaxy would emerge. During 544.M32, a gigantic Orc war would fortify the world of Ulanor once more, led by the Orc warlord known only as the Beast. This new scourge of greenskins would eclipse the size of the original empire, first defeated during the Ulanor Crusade. Upon the capital city of Gorkogrod, the Beast would build a temple to his patron gods, Gork and Mork, upon the ceremonial location where the Primarchs would celebrate the Ulanor triumph. Attempting to convert the planet into a mobile battle station capable of teleporting itself through subspace, the Beast would resolve to destroy Holy Terra. In a desperate bid to stop the Beast's conquest, the long-lost Primarch of the Salamanders, Vulcan, would lead the first Imperium invasion of Ulanor. Alongside the so-called Last Wall Initiative, comprised of the Sons of Rogul Dawn, Vulcan would storm the city capital of Gorkogrod. Combating the Beast in single combat aboard the massive Gargant Temple, Vulcan would sacrifice his own life by detonating the power source of the Gargant. disintegrating both himself and the beast in the process. The Orc War would collapse without the command of their warlord. Yet the Greenskins would endure on Ulanor Prime in secret, biding their time to once again rebuild. Discovering the remnants of the mustering Orc armies, the Imperium would launch a second invasion of Ulanor, dispatching several Astartes chapters, Astra Militarum regiments, Skitarii, Knights and Titans, with even the elite Death Watch and Inquisitorial Stormtrooper companies lending their strength to the conflict. Infiltrating the city of Gorkogrod once more, the Imperium forces would discover that there was no such beast in command of the Orcs, but 6 similar Orc warlords bearing similar traits to the original leader of the Orc forces. These so-called Prime Orcs would command their own legions in combat, as a crude mockery of the Emperor's own Primarch sons did during the Ulanor Crusade. With Lord Commander Kurland of the Imperial Fist chapter slain during the invasion, the Imperium would withdraw from Ulanor. Yet Chapter Master of the Fist Exemplar, Maximus Fane, would lead a final desperate campaign to retake Ulanor. The third invasion of Ulanor would devastate the Orcs by redirecting asteroids to crash land on the planet's surface. Experimenting with the Sisters of Silence null powers in combination with the strange Orc energy known as War, the Imperium forces would construct a reverse War energy. Weakening the Orcs and devastating their forces, the final beasts would be slain. With the War of the Beast won in the name of the Imperium, Maximus Fane would assume command of the Imperial Fists and be elected as the new Lord Commander of the Imperium. Maximus would order the Adeptus Mechanicus to enact Exterminatus of the planet of Ulanor Prime. Yet the Mechanicus would be reluctant with destroying a planet so rich in materials and alien technologies crucial to the survival of the Imperium. Fabricator General Kubik would instead reverse engineer the Orc teleporter technology to move Ulanor to a new location on the edge of the Segmentum solar system. The Mechanicus' deception complete, Ulanor Prime would be renamed Armageddon. Yet despite the efforts of the Mechanicus, the Orcs would not be deceived and would not be denied their homeworld. For the Orcs are nothing but stubborn and would once again plot to retake their homeworld. Despite removing all traces of Xenos technology from the planet, Armageddon would still be a tempting prize to claim for the enemies of the Imperium. During 444.M41, Chaos cultists commanded by the fell powers of Khorne would infiltrate the planet's populace. Initiating the first war for Armageddon, the planet would be besieged by none other than the fallen Primarch of the World Eaters, Angron. By now a demon prince of his patron god, Angron would assault the planet aboard a space hulk spawned from a warp storm originating near the planet's orbit. The demons, fallen Astartes, and Chaos cultists would quickly slaughter the defenders of the Hive World, conducting an orgy of bloodshed and terror which would threaten the survival of the planet. Dispatching the Space Wolves and Grey Knight Space Marine chapters, the Imperium's Astartes would synergize their specialized tactics to deny the forces of Chaos. The 6th Legion would bolster the defenses of the planet, whilst the 666th Legion would carve a path through their demonic nemeses. So effective would be their intervention, they would banish Angron from the material world and purge the planet of the Chaos cultists. Yet the planet would not be spared the wrath of the Inquisition. For due to the intervention of a demon Primarch, the Grey Knights would be ordered by Geshme Kisnaros to exterminate the entire populace of Armageddon to prevent the corruption of their citizens. Rounding up the soldiers whom had fought in the defense of Armageddon, they would be sterilized and sentenced to serve within work camps by the Ordo Malleus. Chapter Master and Great Wolf of the Space Wolves, Logan Grimnar, would refuse to cleanse the planet of the loyal soldiers whom had stood by his Astartes' side. With tensions building between the Space Wolves and Inquisition, the two forces would engage one another in both ground and orbital combat in a campaign that would endure for 8 months. The engagement first remarked as by an Astartes of the Grey Knights as the Months of Shame, though such a tale shall be elucidated another time, for there is much to discuss. Yet Armageddon would not be spared for long, for during 941.M41, almost 500 years after the initial war on the planet's surface, the Orcs would return. Under the command of war boss Ghazghkull Mag Uruk Fracka, the Second War for Armageddon would begin. Armageddon's defenses would be commanded by the planetary governor, Hermann von Straub, an unimpressive and wasteful man, out of his depth to defend such a planet of paramount importance to the Imperium. With aid from the first founding Astartes chapter, the Blood Angels, under the command of their chapter master, Dante, the world of Armageddon would endure. As each victory was countered by von Straub's own ineptitude, a new hero of the Imperium would rise to face the Xenos. Commissar Sebastian Yarrick, whom had been exiled by von Straub during his service to defend Hades' hive, would refuse to stand idle whilst the city fell. Commanding a heroic defense of the city, Yarrick would tax Ghazghkull's forces whilst the Blood Angels would carve their glory into the heart of the Orc strongholds. With Ghazghkull committing his forces to destroy Yarrick's, it would be blinded by the Imperium's counterattacks, which would cripple the Orc invasion. Yet Ghazghkull Mag Uruk Fracka would escape Armageddon, and for the next 57 years plot to reclaim his prize, assembling the largest Orc war ever seen in the Imperium's history. The Third War for Armageddon would be unleashed during 998.M41. Warned of the impending invasion, Commissar Sebastian Yarrick would assemble as many reinforcements as possible during the days given to him by the war boss. Assembling a vast battle fleet, the Imperial Navy forces would be led by the High Marshal of the Black Templars, Helbrecht. As Battlefleet Armageddon would delay the Orcs within orbit, many Astartes chapters would be sent to aid in the defense of the planet alongside the Black Templars, the Flesh Terrors, Angels of Fire, Black Dragons, Celestial Lions, Raptors, Salamanders, Blood Angels, White Scars, Exorcists, Silver Skulls, Stormlords, Iron Champions, and dozens more. Despite so many Imperial forces, the war would only narrowly be won in the name of the Imperium, with entire chapters almost decimated in its wake, and the resolve of many battle-hardened Astartes and Astra Militarum forces tested to their limits. Yet despite the Orc war of Ghazghkull Mag Uruk Fracka being pushed back, the planet of Armageddon still struggles to stave off the remnants of Orcs left behind on the planet. Regarding the planet with regards similar to the ancient Terran belief of Valhalla, small Orc warbands continue to harass the planet's forces by adding numbers to the ever-embattled Orc remnants on the planet's surface. And with the emergence of the Great Rift cutting a swathe through the galaxy, the world of Armageddon is besieged once more by Chaos Demons. The rift interfering with the traversal of reinforcements of both Orc and Imperium in nature, the conflict of Armageddon protracts and prolongs seemingly without end. With chaos beings of Khorne and Tzeentch spilling forth onto the planet's surface, the battle now wages between four distinctly opposed factions of the galaxy's never-ending war. With an attempt to summon Primarch Angron to once again lay waste to the planet, narrowly prevented by the intervention of 9 Astartes chapters under the command of the Salamanders, all that can be stated for certainty is that Armageddon shall not be spared of war for centuries to come. For many of the subjects of the Imperium, believing Armageddon shall never know peace, too valuable to relinquish to the enemies of humanity, yet too costly to defend, Armageddon shall never be unburdened from its shackles of endless butchery, fire, and destruction. For Armageddon, truly, more than any hive world of the Imperium, is within Hell's reach.
We will fight and win, or fight and die. All that ever changes is the color of the sky we fight under, and the shade of the blood on our blades.
This has been a tale of the great Imperium of Man, read by the Remembrancer. There is much to discuss about the wars waged throughout the Imperium's history, yet some battles require their own elucidation. Speak forth, subjects of the Imperium, for you shall mold the future of humanity's history, and to mold it in his name, we must remember our past.